Hi guys, and welcome back. And today we have Abdur from Egypt, and he's come all the way from Egypt to study masters and do his MBA in the UK. And so in this episode, and the second episode of Student Speaks, we really want to understand and dive deep into how he moved to the UK, how he came to the UK, and how did this change come about, and what inspired him to actually go into studying masters, as well as we want to get his insights and all the little nitty-gritties that we want to get out of him into actually understanding how it is and how he really adapted to the change in the UK, as well as his whole journey as well. So and how he's finding it right now to find out a job. So Abdul, met a few times. You're definitely inspiring, like one of those inspiring people within that class of MBA 2020. And I definitely think, you have a lot on your mind and a lot to speak about. So just want to, quickly introduce yourself. Go ahead, quickly introduce yourself. How did you come to the UK? What did you do? What did you do before? What brought you here?
Perfect. First of all, thank you, Jabez, for giving me this opportunity to join you in this episode. My name is Abdur Rahman. I graduated with a bachelor degree with information system as a major, and as a minor, a software engineer. After that, I worked almost for 5 years as a software test engineer. And at 2020, when COVID struck, actually, I started to think to take the next step. It was actually before like COVID started with a couple of weeks maybe, and then COVID struck, and we all, during COVID, we were most of us started working remotely, working from home. Week after week, you keep hearing news about a lot of people laid off from their jobs. So, but although that a lot of people and these high risks for me, because at that moment I was pretty much in my comfort zone. I have a stable job, stable income, but I felt that back then that like I reached what I want to reach from this stage of my career or this field of as a software test engineer. And I want to take the next step, and to take the next step, I lacked knowledge and I lacked experience. So it was time for me to resign and to start applying to come to the UK to do my MBA. Of course, it didn't happen in a day and night. From 2020 till 2021, half a year almost. I was searching, and then I started in 2021 applying to a couple of universities. Of course, I searched for universities in different countries, and we may come to this later on. I kept, searching and applying. And at 2021, I resigned, although it was risky for me, as I told you earlier. But as they say, high risk, high profit. The high profit here was not money, but was knowledge and experience for me. Yeah, August 2021, I resigned, and September I came. MBA journey started then.
That's great. So just to go back a little bit, just want to understand. So you went from being a software engineer to choosing an MBA program. How did that come about? Why that change from a more technical side of of a job role and a jump into masters in business administration, which is basically a little bit generic, a little bits and pieces of a lot of things within a business unit. What was your end goal to kind of merge both of those studies that you've done?
So for me, to take the next step into my career with better position and to climb in a steady pace the ladder of a higher position, and you need to gain knowledge in not just technical parts, because I didn't only imagine myself that I'll be technical for the rest of my life. I also needed that each part or pieces from the other business perspective, which I didn't have back then. So the MBA was the best option for me, because as you mentioned, and you study almost like finance, marketing, HR. You take a piece from each module. So that's why I decided that, okay, I got enough technical. Of course, not the whole technical, because it's a very big scope to say that. But for me, I got what I felt that I needed from the technical side. It was for me to advance or to take the next step. I need to learn more from how, for example, things were in marketing, or how does the business. By my job, I dealt with a lot of business analysts, for example, and a lot of business as managers and so on, but I didn't have the full knowledge. So yeah, that's the main point that made me take this step.
Interesting. Just out of topic here, but like, no, I came in from a mechanical engineering background and then
Okay.
went to do an MBA. So I kind of think a lot of the reasons for doing something very technical and then going into a generic, no, a business-minded course is kind of putting out all the business processes in place to kind of combine with your technical expertise to give you a full all-round experience and knowledge about how to start a business or how to build a business, how to scale, how to grow from your technical expertise. So I think engineering teaches you a lot about processes, and then MBA is more business oriented. So business and process together kind of are a formidable force. I think that's really why or how I fell into it. No, it's really interesting to see your perspective as well. So no, just going back into how you chose the MBA or how you chose the UK, for example. Give us a few examples of maybe probably other countries or other places that you had in mind. But at the same time, why did you fall into choosing the UK as your choice, as your first preference?
Yeah. So of course, this was during the search phase. I've searched a lot of universities. One of the things that were concerning me, of course, is the ranking of the universities, because I want to graduate from universities that have a high rank that can later on help me. Its name and reputation can help me to have a good job.
Yeah.
I've started searching in Singapore, USA, Canada, UK, and Spain. Spain was out of the list due that although the syllabus and all the teaching would be in English, but the day-to-day communication would be in Spanish, and I have no idea except to say hi and bye in Spanish, so it wasn't the best option for me. So I rolled out Spain from the list. USA and Canada, I had no problem with it, but my parents have a concern due to the long distance in case of emergency or in case if they want to visit or for me to return back, it would be a long distance. So it wasn't their best option. So I was between Singapore and UK, and UK was having a high ranking. The universities that I searched was having a high ranking. So it ended up with the UK.
And how Bristol and how University of West of England?
Yeah. So of course, like before, while I was doing the searching, there was setting up a certain budget that I would be needed that is available to proceed with my MBA or master dream to do the MBA or the master degree. Of course, high ranking means it's kind of sometimes it goes out of the budget. So Bristol was one of the cities that its universities were in the range, and also it's having a good in the high ranking, so it ended up in Bristol. I've applied first in University of Bristol actually, and I did an interview, but later on they didn't accept me, and then I applied to UWE, and then I got accepted in UWE.
Okay, so what course did you apply for at University of Bristol? Because they don't offer an MBA course, do they?
It was basically in marketing.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
understood. Right. So, okay, let's take you back to probably your school or your undergrad days. Just want to understand from your side, how is the education system in Egypt, and how different was it for you to adapt to the UK? I can see you smirk a little bit. No, just take us through how the education system is there in Egypt, and then we'll go into the next.
I think there's a huge difference. Let's be realistic. There's a huge difference between the syllabus or the way of teaching in UK and back in my country or in the area where I came from. And sadly, the distance kind of like between earth and sky. There's a huge distance between. Pretty much in my country or area, we lead more to, as long as you memorize a couple of stuff and you can have a little bit of analysis, but as long as you memorize and you have a good memory, you're just going to go inside the exam, release all what you memorized on the paper. Congratulations, you've passed. I don't recall having a lot of researching or writing an academic writing, which later on when I came here, I faced the challenge. But pretty much the way of teaching is completely different. Even the interaction with the module leaders. So in UK here, you don't have to say doctor or professor. You just call them with their name. For example, good morning, Jackie, Martin, whoever.
Yeah.
But if I called the doctor or professor there by their name, it's a forbidden. I'd be expelled probably.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of different mindset and way of teaching also. So this is, I think, the big difference. Here you do a lot of researching, a lot of analysis for different situations, a lot of debating that goes on throughout each lecture. Unlike there, they just give you the lecture. This is the info, know it, memorize it, or know it, and then you are tested in it in an exam, and that's all. And I think also with this is starting like it's not like something new for us. It started like with many past generations.
Yeah.
I think we're in this loop for a while now.
So,
And the changes
so Egypt, in terms of education in Egypt, I understand is a little bit more traditional, right?
Mhm.
So I think you spoke about what it took for you to kind of adapt and change your way of looking at education and how that whole system change it worked for you. But let's dive down deeper in there. I want to understand when you came into the UK, what were the challenges that you faced, like in terms of modules or in terms of how the lectures were taught? What were the difficulties that you faced? Because I think a lot of our viewers also have the same issues or concerns, or they're wanting to travel now and they're looking at options and they see that I have to actually set my mind or keep my mind open to these sets of things because I need to understand things a little differently. I need to see things differently because it's my first time going outside my home country. So what were those challenges that you faced?
Okay, for me, it's very important as a student when you go to a new place or when you first start is to break the ice because there's no doubt you will have a shock when you change
Right.
from your place, you're out of your comfort zone, you're meeting new people, you need to break the ice. So I believe this is one of the very important steps to take and be ready to expose yourself to different mindsets and cultures and views which will help you to develop the way of how you tackle or deal with obstacles. One of the most important things I believe that it would be a big help if students did it before they come to join a master degree program is how to write an academic writing. Because I have a lot of people and friends, even in UWE in undergraduate, they may understand the topic and they know how to solve, but when it comes to writing the academic writing, they suffer and they need to reset again. So it's completely different. So I think, of course, the library, for example, in our case, provided such lectures and sessions, but it would be a big advantage for them to have an idea and to learn how to write an academic writing before they come here. If you recall, even one of the modules, they had us an early assignment, so we can have a trial for us. I believe it was managing people, if I remember correctly. We had an early assignment, and it was like a trial and error, like the first trial for us in how to write an academic writing. And most of us suffered or passed barely or had a very low mark. So yeah, it's very. I think it's very helpful for you to have an idea, especially if you came from a background that you did a lot of writing. In my case, that was the case eventually. So yeah, I think that would be a big help for you to just be ready to get exposed to different views.
A lot of people coming from traditional educational systems, or for example, even from India. I came from Mozambique and I studied in an IB school, so I kind of understand that critical thinking and how critical thinking has an effect on what you write and how you're going to write and how you're going to analyze things, how you're going to literally cite your sources and so on. So these are things that people don't know when they're coming from a country where the educational system just teaches through traditional methods. I think it's very important for us to understand those things before we go into courses like these because, I say this a lot of times as well, which is the MBA program is basically what the student wants to get out of the program. That's exactly what they'll get out. If you want to go into your MBA program learning about a particular facet of the business, that's what you'll get out entirely because that's where your focus and your whole learning point will be. Like that's where your mind will be set. Whereas someone who's coming in is just like, nah, this is just a course I'm going to do. I'm just going to pass it. And then they just go ahead and pass and they go on with their life. It doesn't affect them in any way. It doesn't change their life in any way. If anything, they're probably losing out a year because they could have just been doing something they're more passionate about. But yeah, so
you're talking actually, it's that's why it's very important to interact with other students throughout the module. It's very important, and I think we were lucky to have, for example, a couple of simulation, which we formed teams and to go through a real business. In a real business life. So I think interacting with your colleagues in different modules or in such simulations is a very important for your mindset, for your knowledge, for your experience,
Right.
and for the culture differences. I still remember like we were in a chat and one of our friends sent something and like he's laughing. So he sent like numbers, couple of numbers after each other, and this is might indicate in my country this can be like in a bad word, but in there
Right.
it's in their country it means he's laughing. So it's important to such a silly example, but it's very important to get exposed to other cultures.
Definitely.
The full picture, you will have a wider view for the full picture, which is very important for you later on your career life.
Right. To the guys watching, so if you haven't liked this video, please like and subscribe to the channel. And if you haven't seen the previous video where we're talking to Raphael, do check that as well. He was from Nigeria. Yeah, so let's get back into this. And I think, I want to ask you a quick question on, did you work any part-time jobs while you were doing an MBA, or did you just focus on your MBA full-time?
No, I've worked actually. I've worked for a while in Boots, and later on, due to the schedule, it was kind of hard for me to keep up with Boots part-time. So I've later on joined as a student ambassador, which was a very amazing experience for me because during the student ambassador, I've met people from, for example, from Peru, from Panama, like people from another continent that I would never imagine to meet them. So it was very rich experience. And even in Boots, like for both jobs, to be honest, as I told you, I came from a technical background, so all my job was basically behind a laptop. So whoever I'm dealing with was just like a business analyst, a client, but you never deal with a real customer or a person that you're supposed to give him a service. For example, for Boots, were sometimes a very lovely customers, and another day there's a very angry customers. And while having, as a student ambassador, for example, whatever the tasks that you're having, for example, like you're guiding people on an open day, so you might after giving the info or the guide to the people that was asking, they might give you a smile. Other people might be a little bit grumpy or they didn't have their coffee. So it helps you to to deal with different people. It teaches you also that don't take everything on your nerves. Life is more simpler. So but I definitely worked for these two jobs.
So you found it a little difficult to kind of manage both? Is that what you say, like with an MBA?
A little bit challenging, of course. To be honest, I can't compare myself. Like, I believe there's a lot heroes. Let's name it as, like, we had colleagues who are married, who have children.
Yeah.
And I really have, like, for example, the ladies, for example, some of them were not in Bristol. They had to travel and due to some accommodation issues in Bristol here. So they had to live in nearby cities. So imagine like for ladies, for example, they need to come from another city, attending the lectures, returning back, check about the kids, their husband also they need to cook. So I believe like compared to them, they are really superheroes. So I think it's really, it's kind of difficult, but I think it's also, at the end of the day, you feel you did a very good job by having the journey of the MBA, and in the same time, you gain an experience that it's new for you.
Got it. So, like, apart from the MBA course, did you have anything else going on, or any extracurricular stuff or sports that you were involved in? Anything else other than...
So, I'm an anime fan, so pretty much in my free time, I either watch anime or pretty much also I love to explore. If I go to any new place, I love to explore it. So pretty much you can find me walking in the city, exploring each place, browsing what is the monuments or lovely places to visit in Bristol. We have a lot of green areas here in Bristol and a lot of hills, and so I love nature in general. So yeah, you'd find me there walking and exploring new places and new also cuisines. Like it's while being in Bristol, it's the first time to try Indian food, for example. So trying
that's great, because I think at least Bristol for that choice, like. Bristol is very international. You get a lot of people from different places. That was a very big advantage, I think. All right. I think you mentioned just in the previous question, you mentioned that people facing difficulties in finding accommodation and so on. Let's go into that a bit. No, did you find any issues in terms of accommodation? Did you have any challenges or people not giving you a tenancy agreement or you not being able to find an accommodation? How was that challenge? Like, how was your shift to the UK? Was that
So regarding the accommodation, it wasn't that difficult for me as I had a shared flat. I found a shared flat with someone that I know from Egypt.
okay?
So it wasn't that hard for me. I was lucky, to be honest, in this area when I heard my colleagues' stories. So I
Yeah.
think regarding the accommodation, it wasn't that difficult for me to find it. Yeah.
Right.
Can you
And
repeat
did you
the
do any
second part of?
background? Did you do any background, research or anything beforehand, like before you got to the country? Or did you have an agency or someone to help you out? Or did you do
Um,
everything by yourself?
So pretty much my friend who is was sharing this that I'm sharing the flat with, he eventually went to an agency,
Okay.
and this agency everything went through the agency, so it was kind of easier for us, to be honest. Later on, I think to move out from this place to another, I asked the same agency to start looking, and I've started searching through the websites. But as you know, like there's a lot of students and in Bristol, a lot of accommodation issues. So I wasn't that much successful in moving. I think I was lucky also because moving is completely hectic. So I was lucky
Yeah.
also that I didn't find any place else. And I'm happy here, to be honest.
So you're still in the same place that you, like, when you landed in Bristol, you entered this place and you're still there
I'm still
through your
there, yeah.
MBA, and
Till
that's
now.
amazing. And not a lot of
Yeah.
people get that opportunity. I've seen it. I felt it firsthand. So, no, that issue is there. I think, a lot of people have had issues with accommodations and so on. I remember people in the initial days that we started our course, people sleeping in the hallways at uni. Sleeping on the couches at uni because they couldn't find places. It was pretty sad, but I'm glad it all worked out for you in your favor.
Thank you.
But yeah, so I think for someone coming from Egypt or somewhere around Egypt or even other countries like Egypt, what biggest change that they would see when they're moving to a country like UK, apart from the cultural shock that they might face, but apart, like, in terms of education, in terms of not just like the academic side, but like
The
overall,
life also
yeah, the
overall.
life in the UK. How's the economy in the UK? How's life outside of studies, life outside, like, just as a human being? Are you welcomed? So how is that? How are
Yeah.
you really zoning into the UK?
So I think which this is like most of us is facing is most of the people who are coming from to study in the UK are coming from countries that they have their currency compared to the GBP is when you convert it, it's weak. So I think this is one of the biggest challenges anyone can face before they come to the UK. For me, I think we were not that lucky because when we came, there was still COVID and there's a lot of restrictions. So the intakes that came after us, they did a lot of welcoming parties. A lot of touring throughout the city by some societies in the universities. So it was kind of more easier for the people who came after our intake. For me also, like I still remember the first time after my quarantine ended and I went to buy my phone SIM, and I was lucky enough to have this, tough UK accent,
Okay.
which made me feel like, oh boy, looks like I need to learn English again. It was like, it's very hard to understand. I was like, sorry, can you repeat again? And it was until I bought the SIM. So I think you may face some difficulties, or even if you understand English, the accent or people who might be a little bit, having not a good day, like an angry bus driver, for example. So you can get you can be in such situations. But again, to break this ice and to end this shock as fast as you can, walk through the city, join societies, join any activities that can break and make you feel comfortable, or because if we return, take a step back, why you're having this shock is because you're in a new place. You have no
Yeah.
new people that you know. Even if you know the language, you still have like maybe different accent, a different mindset of people, how they deal with stuff. So to break this ice, you just need to, exploring the city. Be familiar with the city. Be familiar, first of all, with your neighbor, with the near places, stores. It doesn't have to be with a society. You can have like with your colleagues and the program you're enrolled in. So I believe this is a very mandatory or a very important factor that a person have to take in the first couple of days to start to feel. Once you start to feel that, okay, this is now, I can call this a place that I'm comfort with, or home, then things will go smoothly later on. And for me, for example, one of the important things for me, because I'm a Muslim, so I need a halal butcher, for example. So it was important for me to know a halal butcher. So this exploring stuff, when once was done, my life was more, the flow of my life was more easier. Yeah, so, and that's why I really recommend, although sometimes it's hard, of course, it depends on the situation, but if you can come before the semester starts with a week, for example, it would be very good, because you don't want to, have many shocks one after another, like you're having a shock with the way of studying, universities, modules, and then with places that you can buy food from, the cities, neighborhood, so it's I always recommend that if you have the chance to come a week earlier, it would be a big plus for you.
That's great. Good insights there. Now let's go into something more on the numbers side, right? How many years did you save up to kind of go into your master's, or how did you save up, or how did you get the funds to actually start your master's?
Right. So whatever the saving up that I was done, like it wasn't big enough to support me. I had my biggest support, to be honest, is from my father. That I'll always be thankful to him, that without him, I would never taken this step. So yeah, he was from the first moment I opened the discussion with him that I want to do an MBA. He just told me, you have my full support and go ahead, because he knows how the MBA was important for me, and he knows how the MBA is important for me to go and advance as a career-wise and as a person also. So he was one of the big supporters for me. Also my brother and family overall, but as funding, my father is my biggest support, and I will be always grateful for him, definitely. Yeah.
It's lovely to have supportive parents, and I know if you have supportive parents, don't leave them. I mean, I think we're fortunate to have parents who are able to support us and who are able to kind of help us and see our vision as well, because I think a lot of people don't have that opportunity.
Especially in these tough times, I believe, like in the world we live in, we have a lot of obstacles, a lot of going on worldwide. And we're very lucky, and I'm very grateful, to be honest. I will always be.
So I think, obviously you had a helpful family to do it. And how did you make ends meet, after you got into the UK, apart from just obviously you worked to kind of support yourself as well. What else did you do from your side to kind of break down the financial burden per se per month? Because I think a lot of people, once they land, I think you always get into unexpected expenses. For example, you didn't think that food would cost that much, or you didn't think that you'd have to spend more for halal meat, for example. So things like that you didn't really think about or account for, or you couldn't have done the research, or it just slipped your mind. How did you adapt to those quick?
So I was pretty much, I had because as I told you, I had I shared the flat with a colleague here, and so he pretty much gave me some insight about the prices, and also I did my research. Beside that, the moment I joined a society where I've asked question on the WhatsApp group about the prices, how things are going on, which should help me. So it's being like you can explore any the prices, like you can go to Tesco from back in your country, or the main markets, and you just know the prices, so you can have an idea or set some initial amount that you will be needing it. And for me, working as a part-time was part for me that my father helped me, but I still need to help in this funding process. Or else it would kind of feel, that I'm a liability, which didn't made me feel comfortable. I still needed, although my savings was compared, of course, to his help was nothing, but I still needed to feel myself that I'm contributing to this journey, that I started it in a way or another. So that's why I've started working. My close opportunity, I've grabbed it and I start working as a part-time.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when you did choose the UK, did anything to do with visa, or obviously you get a post-study work visa, right? Or 2-year post-study
Yeah.
work visa after you
Yeah.
finish your MBA. Did that play into your decision? And how did you plan to kind of, because a lot of people do the studies like for that 1 year and then they leave or go back to their home country.
Yeah, I
What
know a
made
lot
you want to,
actually. Yeah,
what made
I'm
you want to
sorry
stay?
to, yeah. So my plan from the very beginning was to go do my MBA and have an international experience through these two
Got
years.
it.
So my plan from the beginning was to do and to stay. Although back then I didn't know that it would be 2 years. I thought that it'd be like a couple of months or a year that they would
Okay.
be granting you. But when I came here later on, I knew it's 2 years. But my plan from the initial that, okay, I've came here, done the MBA, gained the knowledge and the experience, plus my technical background. It's having an international experience. I believe would be would weight my CV more and will help me more to when I return to my country or any other country. I would have a richful CV that can grant me a good position later on. So yeah, pretty much that was one of the initial plans that I had.
Right. And are you currently looking to kind of stay back in the UK, settle in the UK, or what's your long term?
So it depends, of course. If I found a good job here, I would continue here. But my initial plan is, to find a place where I can climb the position ladder in a
Yeah.
steady pace or in a good pace. And in this time, I want to travel more than one country, expand more about people from different culture and the way of working in working environment, different mindsets. And at a certain point, I'm dreaming to have my own business, to open my own business. I believe in the term of sentence one step at a time, no matter how long it takes, you can, but as long as this one step is giving you an added value and you're benefiting from it, then it's good. But yeah, at a certain point, I'm hoping, I don't know if it would be a near future or distant future, but at a certain point, I'm hoping to have my own my own business. Time to be the boss on someone else.
Yeah. So no, I mean, wish you the best. Wish you the
Thank
best for
you.
that. And in terms of no job opportunities, no, I think obviously as a student coming out, you obviously had your challenges into interviewing and getting that right job. How was that? How was that whole experience? Where has that landed you right now? Have you found the job that you want? I think you did say that you're still no, obviously looking for a right job to stay back. But what are the efforts you're putting in, and how hard is it to kind of crack that interview?
Okay, so I think regarding the interviews, like I had a lot of interviews. Each interview actually, even if you know or you have a feeling that you might not, tackle it or get it because of maybe like someone else might get it, but it would be an added value for you. You know the type of questions, how HR mindset or what they would later on want to hear. So it would be definitely benefiting you from all the interviews. At the moment, I believe, and I think this is due to economically in UK and also in Europe, because I have a friend in Germany that that's facing the same issue, which
Okay.
is sponsoring ship. So many of us, like as long as you don't have a sponsorship, like you have your wife, for example, working as an NHS and she's sponsoring you, or you've been here in the UK for a while and you have a citizenship here. So as long as you don't have a sponsorship, there's a big difficulty for companies to sponsoring you. Yeah, so that's I think that's what most of us are facing right now. You can have and that's why not many would want to hire you or to bring you, because they know like, okay, they will gonna invest money and time with you, but after 2 years they will not gonna be able to sponsor you and you will have to leave. So they eventually want to to go with someone who's they can guarantee at least he would stay, or he or she would stay with them for a while. So I think this is one of the biggest obstacle that not only me, like many of us are facing at the moment.
Definitely. And is there anywhere that you can kind of figure out or see where jobs actually sponsor visas, or is there anywhere to actually check? Have you seen it? Have you know how have you
Yeah,
gone about your
so
search?
there is like a list of companies by the UK government on the government website. They're
Mm-hmm.
dividing it and they updating it every now and then because it's not easy. Like there's a certain criteria for a company to be able to sponsor someone. They need
Yeah.
to go through a certain process with the government. So there's a big Excel sheet where it's with all the company names with different fields. So I think if anyone watches the episode, they can start from there, or also like attending career fairs. Networking is very important. If you have a friend or a relative or anyone who's working, a colleague, and he's working now in a company that he can refer you, suggest you on a company, then this would be definitely one of the big helps, or you can catch a company or get
Right.
one of the company names that
Referrals
can.
really work. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
it's really important to kind of network and put yourself out there when you are searching for jobs. And even if it is friends or family members or anyone that you can kind of get help from, any help is good help.
Exactly.
I think a lot of times we also, like when we're moving countries, different countries have different requirements, even just for CV requirement, cover letter
Exactly.
requirement, how your LinkedIn profile should be. Like everything is different because a lot of the companies right now are tech driven. So they have a lot of automation tools checking your background research and seeing if your LinkedIn meets up with what you're saying on your CV, if your CV has a good ATS score and so on and so forth. And we tend to...
That's a very important point, actually. One of the, especially in UK here, they have different view for the CV. That's why after we graduate, they always, the university always suggests for us to go to the career department and to have a look on the CV, or how to write a CV. You can attend such sessions because, as you mentioned earlier, each country have a different way of how they read or the CV,
Yeah.
or so it's very important. Very valid point, actually.
Yeah, because I see a lot of people, because I'm helping a lot of students right now actually tailor their CV and craft it and build their personal brand online for their career. And so a lot of them have like 3, 4, 5 pages of a resume, which it's okay to have. But at the same time, when you're applying with something that's 5 pages, your key skills are not really hitting the points that actually need
Exactly.
to be hit, and then everything's all over the place. Education's like at the top, and you'd want your experience to come up, and you want to show that you can actually be capable for this particular role. So there are certain things that need to be tweaked, and there are certain things that obviously, like the ATS is a software, and it's not, I don't think any HR is fully dependent on it, but if you're scoring
play a role,
way too
definitely.
low
Yeah.
on the ATS, that means like you probably don't have any substance in the CV. Whereas if you're scoring above 90% and you're getting those interview calls, but then you're not able to land the job, then there's a different thing that you can work on. No, I think
Especially, I think, sorry to interrupt you. I think
No
the
problem.
point that you said earlier, I heard this more than one time through the interview session, how to write a CV, or from the career department. Having a 5 pages that doesn't mean that I mean, definitely you have a lot of experience, but always try to put in your CV, or like write a skill CV to show that you have the skills or you have an experience in the field that you're applying for. So this is more important for the HR who will gonna read your CV than to have like 5, 6 pages. So they don't care pretty much about your number of pages of the CV as much as they care about what skills or what previous experience you have related to the job that you're applying for. So
Definitely. Right. Now, going back into uni life, how was the
Okay.
student culture? How did you find yourself how was the diversity in your university? Did you get to interact with different people from different places? How was the life there? Were people welcoming? Yeah, shed some light on that.
Yeah, I think the first day where we all went to the university, we all had this shock, no, not all of us are speaking up, a little bit maybe shocked, shy maybe. I think I was blessed with the diversity because I've met people I would never imagine to meet them. Like I've met people from India, Nigeria, Malaysia, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and a lot from the USA. Um, Although we didn't had anyone from UK, which is strange for me, but I think we had a very big diversity, diverse students from different places. And I believe that the first lecture, or the first welcoming lecture that they did back then, I think the module leaders or the program leaders who attended this helped very much to break the ice between us. Because I remember that in the beginning, we were all like just, hi, my name is, and that's all, But later on, they did this as if they have magic stick and, they just hit all of us with it. We're all, engaging with each other. We're
Yeah.
all, you want to talk with them, you want to debate with them, or, to interact with them in a way or another. So I think they the university welcoming lecture or welcoming parties that small welcoming parties that they did back then helped a lot. I've definitely was blessed to meet people from different places. They definitely like Vietnam was one of the countries also that I've missed. I'm trying to cover all the nationalities that were with us, but my memories can be a little bit rusty sometimes. But definitely, yeah, you learn a lot. You learn a lot from, for example, people from, like, say, for example, Nigeria or India. They might have a normality of the normal ways of talking is allowed in a lot, but that doesn't mean that they angry on you or they disagree in a very disrespectful way. No, no, this is
Yeah.
just the way they talk or they deal. This is how they deal with, for example, with their friends back there. So it's really important to not judge and listen to the feedback, listen to their point of view in a different way. I remember also we've learned something through the module of development was if you just took 1% of the feedbacks that you receive or from any condition or situation that you're in, if you take 1% of it and you benefited from it and you reflected probably on it, it would benefit you would benefit from it. So yeah, definitely it was very helpful to understand other people way of thinking and how they tackle issues, to be honest. And this was shown up in different exercises that we had
Yeah.
throughout the modules and the program in general, how they think. And sometimes, it's like a puzzle. You put your piece of solution with their piece of solution to have a better and a more valid and ethical way of solution to tackle this challenge or obstacle. So it also helped to develop the team work skills that we have. Probably most of
Right.
us were working back there in their countries, and they can have it, but still, at the end of the day, you're still having it with colleagues from the same nationality, which not that diverse, or you're not exposed to this
Yeah.
um, diversity and way of thinking.
So coming back to one of the things that you mentioned, no, you worked and then you went into a master's.
Mhm.
So what really intrigued you to go into master's after working for several years? And then how was that like, no, that shift from working and then going back to studying?
Yeah, so it was important for me, of course, like we graduate, it's even better for whoever come to apply for a master's degree. They recommend if you have an work experience, it's a plus because in a way or another, in working experience, you have an idea how, of course, not fully, but how the business or how things can be run in a corporate environment, which can
Mm-hmm.
help you later on reflect on it when you come to study the MBA, even if it was a technical background. So it still helped. Of course, back in my country while I was working, there's also you get adapt to certain policies. You need to in a certain way. You need to have like to report for a certain like managers or something like that.
Yeah.
The hierarchy until you reach the top. So this all helps in a way or another in doing the MBA by reflecting throughout certain situation and challenges that you face.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, that's why they say that having a work experience is a big plus because you would be able to reflect in many modules such as the development module, the marketing, the HR module. Like you can reflect in situation like that happened, for example, between me and my situation with the HR, for example, if we dealt in a certain issue or I was asking to them for a certain stuff. So you know the process and you would be able to reflect on these situations when you have a work experience. So yeah, working experience is definitely a plus, and even if it's not in it's a technical background, so it's you can always reflect on it
Got it.
because there's no way you're not having challenges or obstacles throughout your work
Yeah,
life.
yeah,
So yeah, and you definitely have also different opinions,
yeah.
and MBA help you not only to reflect on these different opinion situation, but also how you could tackle like if you were in this position again, how would you tackle and
It better.
yeah, better and to be a win-win situation. And
Got it.
sometimes maybe you're not having a good day, maybe your reply to your colleagues is not that much good, so it helped you to deal with the work and also with your colleague and with different situations. So yeah.
Right. So shed some light on the healthcare system.
Mhm.
How was it back home? How was it here? And has it like have you had any experiences? Because obviously people moving outside of their comfort zone will
Mhm.
definitely want to understand. Like for example, if I moved out from a country, obviously I want to know if their healthcare system is better. How is it like no practically speaking?
Yeah, so pretty much back in my country, when there's no like a GP, if you're sick, you just go to a certain doctor, you know. So it's pretty much different here. When you come here, you just
Mm,
pay when one of the fees that you pay while when applying for the visa is the NHS fees, which you need like if you have an issue or you're sick, you need to report or call to book an appointment with a certain GP that you're registered with,
yeah.
unlike in my country. So my experience here was not that good. Like last year, I had COVID, and the response was not so much, and that my situation was getting worse actually.
Okay.
I've reached a level that I was not able to swallow, to talk, harden, breathing in a hard manner. So at the end, I had to go to a private doctor because my situation was not very well.
Okay. No,
And
sad to hear.
yeah. And whenever I called them, they just gave you just go to buy any painkillers or any from a pharmacy, which was not what I really needed back then. I needed a strong antibiotics to take it, and so my experience here was not that good. I think they kind of have a lot of issues in the NHS nowadays, and maybe they are short of on staff, and the response might be a little bit, they may take a longer time to respond to your query, and I think also they basically I think short on staff. That's why. So yeah, that's my experience here. But maybe someone else might have a better experience. I don't know. Like I hope whoever we're gonna come will have a good experience with them, and hopefully you would not need them anyway. I know a friend actually that he went to them and they had to keep him to make sure that he's after to make the proper tests. He stayed in the hospital and he did the test and they gave him the cure and everything, and he was good later on. So I don't want to, my experience for people to build up basically on it,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
each one have different experience. So
yeah.
I might have like a bad experience, but other may have a very good experience. So definitely don't judge on something just because from one bad experience. Eventually, in all places or all institutions or organization, there's not always, they're
No,
not all
definitely.
perfect, and yeah. So you don't build an assumption or spread the negative vibes, as they say, about your certain experience.
Oh no,
Uh,
it's not about negative vibes. It's just no. We need to, yeah. So I ideally like want them to get to understand what's the ground level. Like for example, I had a bad experience as well. Took my
okay.
friend who had broken his leg to the hospital. They took no 3/4 of the day, just made us sit
Mhm.
down filling papers and doing paperwork. And then when it was time to, really right before everyone was, about to leave and all the doctors were about to leave, that's when they randomly just called our name and said, okay, now we'll get you on a cast. So,
Okay.
it wasn't the best. And for example, like, I've seen firsthand in the hospital, saw a person who came in who sawed his leg literally, like, and his leg is literally hanging and dangling with blood all over the floor, gushing out.
Wow.
And they made him sit down for, I think, a good 1 to 2 hours on the same day. No, because I don't know what other issue was there, but I think at any hospital, when you enter in like that, the first instinct would be to kind of stop them from bleeding.
Yeah. Or at least
But
the ER, if you're going to the ER especially.
yeah, this was at the ER. So
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
sat like at literally in the front of my friend's waiting with his broken leg, and you see another guy walking in with gushing blood, and they're just mopping up the blood. Anyways, that's the true reality of no, because when you are short staffed and when
Yeah,
that is the case, there are these issues, and people need to know
exactly.
that before they go into a particular country. Of course, that's really important. Anyways,
And don't expect always like they might like maybe they are short of staff definitely, but
yeah,
and sometimes they're not having like a regular training, or for them, or regular checkup. Maybe I'm not sure. Like I'm brainstorming here. What might be the reason for that? Yeah, so you can be in such difficult situations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think we're gonna come to a conclusion on this episode. But before we go ahead, I want you to probably take a minute to kind of give an advice to someone traveling from Egypt to the UK or from anywhere else in the world to the UK. Something that you think is the most valuable insights that you could give as someone right now who's completed his master's, who's currently working and also searching for other opportunities. What's your best advice?
First of all, do not compare yourself with others. So if, for example, if you're enrolled in a full-time MBA and, for example, your close friend or your work colleague or your brother, your sister, for example, or anyone who you know that did his MBA while he's having kids and while he's working, so don't compare yourself. Each one of us have his own book, and each book is just can be written with one unique pen, and this pen is your pen. So if you came with your colleague pen, it would be a failure book. This book it would be a worst seller. It won't sell. First of all, don't, because some people have a lot of pressure, like when they kind of compare, or when other kind of compare with them, like their situations. So don't put extra pressure on yourself. You'll have a lot. Life will give you a lot of pressure. Don't worry about it. So yeah, this first of all. Second thing, be open. You need to change your mindset or how you get to deal with things. So be open. Maintain your principles that you believe is right, but in the same time, you don't, make less or be kind of sending some insults or hidden insults to others in a way or another, because they may they have different point of view of how, for example, to tackle this situation. So
Yeah.
be considerate for others, be open to learn, be open that it will not always be easy for you. You will have difficult times, but these difficult times you will learn from it, and that's these difficult times what will make you enhance yourself and develop yourself. So
And stronger.
be grateful. Yeah, and stronger, definitely. Be an explorer. Just explore the city, explore the cities that you're in, the people. Be open to have new friends from different countries. Yeah, and things will gradually be, you eventually, although we were a big group, but at the end of the day, we were kind of all friends. Of course, most of us, like when we, for example, did the team on the simulation, we had close groups. But at the end of the day, we know each other. We interacted with each other in a way or another in one of the modules, at least. So yeah, be open. That's all. Just enjoy the journey and the experience. It's really, I believe this is I enjoyed every bit of this MBA. Looking back at it with all its hardships, obstacles from dealing with tough modules, that I didn't have any finance background, for example, or I didn't have any marketing background. I suffered a lot from how to research, how to citing, and so on. But at the end of the day, you learn, you're enjoying it, and if I enjoyed every bit of it, even if the hardships, and I would definitely be grateful for this journey for my entire life.
Well, that's wonderful, and thank you for taking the time to come on our podcast. And no, it was amazing to have you as a guest. Thank you for speaking to us, Abdul, and thank you for sharing your thoughts. It was truly inspiring. And yeah, and that's a sign off, guys. And thank you for all of you guys supporting us. Please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Cheers, guys.
Thank you.